This video is sponsored by me. Read my books Above Heaven and Dance of Frozen Death. Links in the description. Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a heads up. There will be spoilers for Kung Fu Panda, plus Peter Pan and Wendy. If you haven't seen Kung Fu Panda, just watch it already. It's amazing. If you haven't seen Peter Pan and Wendy and care about spoilers, I might want to question your values, because that film was literally every worst aspect of live-action remakes personified. It took out all of the soul from the original. It was way too long, not a lot happened, it's dull and bland, the character development was non-existent, and I really didn't even understand what the plot was of the story. It was a series of seemingly random events. The change in Captain Hook made Peter look like a sociopath. Even though Hook was the only actor that really brought anything to the table, most of the kids involved looked lost and bored.
This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
And it's not like I'm opposed to a new interpretation of Peter Pan. Out of all the old Disney properties, it's one of the films that you could do the most with. There are a lot of ways to change Peter, Wendy, and Tinkerbell to make an interesting change to the tale. Just look at something like Hook with Robin Williams. Now that is an interesting evolution to the tale. Or you could do something as simple as change the time period. Peter could have been in Neverland since the Victorian era, and Wendy's family could be living in modern times. The cultural shock of changed technology is an interesting idea to start with in comparison to what's in Neverland. And there's plenty of things to do with having a bunch of lost boys. It's not like there's a whole generation of young men right now who are lost. There are way more paths than just throwing girls into the mix, which kind of misses the point of lost boys. You know, the obvious point that girls tend to grow up faster than boys. Do I even have to say not all here? It's pretty obvious and everyone can read it. It's not the biggest deal in the world that the writers did it. It's just weird to throw girls into a group of boys when the whole point of that group is that men are supposed to be embarrassed that they used to think like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has nothing to do with this case. It does not make sense.
And the overall weirdest aspect of the film was the climax where Wendy realized that she needs to stop letting the world hold her back. To fly, she needs to focus on becoming a writer and dying alone on a couch, which is kind of laughable and a little sad. It feels a bit like reverse psychology here to me. And this trend of making the main characters realize their own strength by unlocking their inner awesomeness has become very prevalent. A big example would be Captain Marvel, where the only thing holding her back is a limiter. Once that's gone, she's unstoppable. It's the outside world's fault that she's weak. There's no internal struggle. There's no character development. There's not even a training montage, moment of intense suffering, or outside help to reach this new level of strength. It's like Goku becoming Super Saiyan without the training, the constant fights, the deadly injuries, and watching the people he cares about die. The unlocking your inner awesomeness needs more than just realizing that the world sucks.
Life sucks, and then you die.
Now, you could argue that Dragon Ball isn't exactly a fair comparison. Peter Pan and Wendy is a movie. Dragon Ball is a series that's been continuing forever. So a fair comparison would be Kung Fu Panda. They're both movies where the main characters has to realize a true potential within themselves. They realize that they don't need an outside force to make them something special. Through their change in perspective, they realize their true potential. As an outline, this sounds like a great story. So what does Kung Fu Panda do differently? Well, it basically puts in the work to make the audience care about the situation. Po is misunderstood at the start of his journey. He's not skilled at fighting, he's not strong, he's a goofball, and no one believes in him. Wendy is good at fighting at the start of the movie. She's strong enough to beat both of her brothers 2-on-1. She's treated as the perfect main character, and everyone believes the best in her. So from the start, Wendy misses the original appeal, which comes from being the underdog. When he starts his journey, only one person believes in Po, Master Oogway. Everyone looks down on him for his dream of being a kung fu master. Sifu, the Furious Five, and even his dad. Despite this, Po tries his best, even as his teacher and peers try to beat the determination out of him. There is, in fact, an outside force actively holding him back, and it's not Po's fault. It's Sifu's fault. It's tangible, it's real, it's shown. That doesn't happen with Wendy, or Captain Marvel, or any other character who unlocks their inner awesomeness. When Sifu changes his perspective, he's able to train and motivate Po in a way that works for a panda. Po still has to put in the work, but he needs that teacher to push him forward. Without guidance, a lot of people flop around in the darkness for a long period of time. Sometimes they never get any better at what they're trying to achieve. At the very least, they take a lot longer to improve. But not Wendy. She was never really shown to struggle with anything, or trained with a real sword, or struggle multiple times to fly with Peter and Tinkerbell giving her instructions. There's no journey in the hero's journey.
Wow, you make history come alive.
Even at the realization point in the story, Po needs help from his father. He's not alone. He stumbles when his teacher and peers fail to believe in him. But his father shows him that there's no special ingredient. He has to believe in the work he put into improving himself. And that's shown during his final fight with Tai Lung, where Po still gets beaten to a bloody pulp throughout a lot of it, while showing everything that he's learned over the course of the film. Wendy just flies and defeats an entire ship of pirates on her own with no formal sword training or any type of flying training or anything. I don't think she even held a real weapon until that point. Does the fairy dust make the weapon lighter? Because swords are heavy, and there's a reason Peter Pan uses a dagger. He's a young boy. Young children can't swing full weapons, and they can't beat a pirate without a supernatural element helping them, allowing them to always have the high ground and always beat their foes in terms of speed by flying.
Speed is key!
I have no problem with Peter Pan and Wendy changing the original story from a journey of pure whimsy to a tale of Wendy growing as a warrior, except it was done poorly without any steps taken for character development. You could argue that this is a film for children, but I don't like that argument for a wide range of issues. One, this is nostalgia bait. This was made for parents to drag their kids to the cinema, not the other way around. Two, just because something is targeted towards children, it doesn't mean that we should accept something of poor quality. Three, because it is in fact a kids/family movie, we should probably hold the messaging to a somewhat higher standard. Are we really going to tell kids that their every failure is someone else's fault? That if they don't understand or get something instantly, it's just not fair? Here's the thing, everyone who has ever been new at anything has sucked at it. You know it, I know it, and I know it as both as an author and as a person on YouTube. My older content sucks compared to what I can do now, and I still don't think I'm particularly good at this yet. I just need to keep practicing and learning. That and getting feedback are the only ways to improve.
That is bad news.
Criticism shouldn't come from a place of trying to tear something down. I want to build something up. Wendy and Peter Pan could have been good if anyone involved actually cared. But can anyone look me in the eye and say there was passion involved in this? I have a deeply held belief that every single concept can work in storytelling. Kung Fu Panda is my go-to example for this theory. Without knowing the quality of the film, think about the idea alone. A panda who is barely capable of walking in a straight line or climbing stairs trains to become a kung fu master and defeat a foe that even combat masters can't touch. Your first instinct is probably to think that the idea won't work, but passion and love force the concept to work. That's another sad thing about Peter Pan and Wendy. There's a small barrier to entry for that. You don't have to sell the concept because it's already proven. But everyone seemed to treat this like a 9-to-5 cubicle job that they didn't care about and hated. And I can say for certain that makes bad, soulless art.
What a story! You've stolen my shovel!
Even if something is flawed, the passion involved can make it better. Just look at something like The Room. People might like that film ironically because it's so bad that it's good, but it only reached that level because Tommy Wiseau cared about it. There's a recent film that I watched called The Valet that I really liked despite it being somewhat by the book, because I could tell that the people involved were passionate about the culture and story of the film. Caring about something automatically makes it at least a little bit better. And that's the overall reason why something like Kung Fu Panda was destined to beat a film like Peter Pan and Wendy. But what do you think? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. And thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider reading my books, Above Heaven and Dance of Frozen Death. Links in the description. And my third book, Vows of Blood and Honor, will be out in September. I hope that you check them all out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.